Are you worried about today's dire financial situation?
Put simply, I would argue the Biden economic plan is working.
The storms on Wall Street continue today after regulators seized the assets of Silicon Valley Bank, marking the largest bank failure since the 2008 financial crisis.
Do you worry you'll have enough to pay your mortgage, pay your children's college tuition, enough to retire?
I believe our banking system remains strong.
Regional banks in focus once again today as the market digests the fallout of the First Republic failure.
You have questions, we have answers. It's the Gold Standard with Ken Russo and Jennifer Horn.
Yes, it is. Welcome to the Gold Standard radio show. Ken Russo, Jennifer Horn checking in, reporting for duty. And boy, what a couple of weeks it's been, Ken.
Yeah.
That rhymes.
Yeah. Another biting incident I heard today. A commander, I think the 11th time he's bitten a Secret Service agent.
Up with those Biden dogs. You had major biting. I like to call him major biting.
Yeah.
Because he's always biting. And then Commander's been biting now. These poor dogs.
That's what you get when you hang around with Commander Joe.
And of course, Senator Bob Menendez listening to this program, taking the advice that he wanted to have gold and he wanted to keep it at home. Unfortunately, privately, he just shoved it in his jacket pockets, allegedly, this week. So, hey, look, everybody, we're touching the masses here. And I want to tell you it's a special week because it is not often when Ken Russo comes in and he sits down and he says, give out my private digits. This is the week. This week, all throughout the program, we're going to give you Ken's direct number at Midas Gold Group. If you've been thinking about gold, if you've been thinking about precious metals, if you've been thinking about converting an IRA, now is the time. All you have to do is call and get the personal touch. There is no more personal touch than calling Ken Russo direct this week, 480-725-0525. It's incredible. When I tell you that Midas Gold Group, it's not a call center, you're calling real people who can really help you. Here's Ken's personal number, 480-725-0525. 480-725-0525. This week only, you're giving out the direct line, Ken.
Yes. I'm going to throw you for a loop, too.
You're going to throw me for a loop?
Yes.
All right, tell me why.
Why on earth should anybody even consider converting some of their assets to gold?
Well, I can tell you why.
Let me hear it.
Because we are doing a lot of spending. We are doing a lot of devaluing of the dollar. We are thinking about a digital currency that's going to take away all of our privacy. We've had bank collapses. The system is failing us.
Oh, you're a liar.
I am not. No fake news here. The system is failing us, and the system wants overreach. Are you ready to take back privacy, safety, security, and put gold and precious metals in your safe, in your home?
But how could this happen? Isn't our dollar backed by something? How could this be?
All right, so let's start from the beginning. You're right. 1971.
Yes.
Tricky Dick.
Yes.
President Richard Nixon.
I got to be honest with you. Tricky Dick compared to Joe Biden?
Not bad.
Rocket physicist.
You think so? At this point, I'm thinking a caterpillar might have a better shot than Joe Biden, but we'll see how that goes.
Well, in 1971.
Yeah, let's start at the beginning. So what happened here? How did we become how are we in the system, the predicament that we're in now, Ken?
Well, remember, our dollar back in the late 1800s all the way until 1933 was fully backed by gold.
It meant something.
It was on a real gold standard,
yeah,
where you can go to the bank, and if you had a $20 bill, you could hand it in, and the banker would give you a $20 gold coin.
Right. There was a backup.
Now, that $20 bill is worth a lot less today, but the $20 gold coin still has significant value. And that's what we're talking about. Mm-hmm. Fast forward that till 1944, they came up with a Bretton Woods Agreement, where they said, okay, we're going to peg the price of gold to the dollar at $30 an ounce,
right?
But other countries could still convert their dollars into physical gold. So other countries like France, all of a sudden in the early 70s, started saying, well, you want to know what? We really don't trust this dollar anymore. Mm-hmm. It's not really that safe. We like the gold much better.
Yeah.
So they started converting all of their dollars into gold. And then Tricky Dick must have said, whoa, wait a minute. We don't have enough of gold here, right? So what they needed to do is they needed to stop that.
Yeah.
And our money became full fiat. And they eliminated the gold standard in 1971 completely.
Backed by nothing.
Actually, at that time, it was even illegal for anyone here in the United States to own gold.
Can you imagine that?
Which is crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And in 1974, from 1933, President Ford was directed, obviously, to approve, well, you could actually own gold again as an American, and then we started making gold coins in 1986.
Right.
But our money is still backed by nothing. Our money is still monopoly money, so to speak, where they're printing and they're taking out so much debt.
Sure.
So we have a few things that are going on here.
So let's talk about that. Yeah, what is going on here? You've got a lot going. You have a lot that you've set the stage for. That currency that we have no longer backed. It's worth the paper that it's printed on. So what else do we need to know?
Yeah, I mean, and there's only so much we can go over in 25 minutes. But in a recap, the dollar is losing significant value. Mm-hmm. Just go to the grocery store or go to the gas station, or all of your bills are all up 20, 30, 40, 50%, even over the last...
I'm trying to stay away from the gas station. It actually traumatizes me now.
Well, $10, here we come in the next year or so. So just buckle up. Second of all, the banking system is extremely risky and fragile because they have all of these investments. They're allowed to leverage their money. It's a fractionalized system. Mm-hmm. So our money isn't at the bank. There's only a small portion of the money that they actually keep from our deposits, and they loan the rest out. They invest the rest, and that's all underwater. So the banking system, when people take their money out of the banks or any financial institution, and yes, it could be your financial institution, those banks and those institutions are insolvent.
Right.
So the banking system is another situation. We also have a government that doesn't know how to stop spending. Mm-hmm. And we're overspending, literally. Here are some new numbers. We've spent $1 trillion in the last 90 days.
Wow.
We overspend as a government by $10 billion every day, which is $370 million every hour. And that's only going to accelerate. So the financial stability of our country is going down the tubes. We are literally headed in a very bad direction when it comes to our financial situation. Also, a lot of these other countries of the world are starting to figure out what exactly is going on.
Right.
And they've been sanctioned for a lot of years, many of these countries, and we're talking about some of the BRIC nations and now many other countries that want to join the BRICS. They want to do more business outside of the dollar. Can you blame them?
No.
So we're in trouble, and you would have to be, I don't want to put this the wrong way, you would have to be mentally ill, like our commander-in-chief, to want to keep all of your assets in that type of a risky banking and financial system that's backed by a dollar, backed by nothing. They're printing it into oblivion. We're just waiting for something to happen, and then there's going to be an avalanche.
And we haven't even talked, you're talking about the real safety that gold, silver, precious metals, that provides for you. We haven't even talked about the government overreach and the fact that a digital currency is coming and that they want to spy on your transactions, right? There's even the potential of a social credit score. There's so many reasons right now, Ken Russo, you know this, and we talk about it, to make sure that you are safe and protected. And so what is the answer? If you are worried about this, you say, yeah, Ken, Jen, I know that all of this is going on, but I don't know what to do next.
Yeah, and I mean, it's got to hit home, Jen.
Of course.
When anybody who hears about this and has common sense, it has to hit home.
Yep.
And I would just say, if you think in a simple way of how could I distance myself from the problems that the banks are facing and that are going to face, and how could I distance myself from the overspending that the government is doing and has been doing for a long time, and how could I distance myself from a financial system that obviously is headed towards monitoring. I mean, they're desperately trying to hold us in the system because when we take our money out, it collapses. So are they going to limit the amount of money we can take out of the bank? Are they going to limit the amount of money that we can pull out of our retirement account soon? Because this is a house of cards. So while you still have the chance, you can diversify.
Yep.
And like Senator Menendez did, you could take some money out of the system or use some cash that you have on hand or take some of your assets that you have in the stock market or in IRAs, and you can convert it to the actual only form of real money that exists, which is gold, and silver.
You're protecting yourself, and if something really bad happens, if there's a collapse and we need gold as currency, you have it at home where you can get your hands on it. It really is a double benefit. And right now, we want you to write this number down because typically we give you the 855-322 gold number on the program. That's the general number that'll take you to Midas Gold. They have storefront locations in Phoenix, Arizona, and in Thousand Oaks, California. You're more than welcome, as we say every week, to go in person, to have that meeting face-to-face, because this is your money. This is your family's future. We want you to feel comfortable about making the decisions that you need to make. So you can go in and talk to someone face-to-face, but this week only.
Yes.
Ken's got out that pencil. He's scrawling that number down on a piece of paper for all of you. So write it down. You can talk directly to this man right here that you hear every week. 480-725-0525. 480-725-0525. And this is for everybody. Even if you already have a gold dealer maybe you're not happy with, you can always call Midas Gold Group for advice. 480-725-0525. Or if you're brand new, maybe you're scared, you don't know where to get started, you have questions about how to keep money or keep gold at home, 480-725-0525.
Yeah, and that's all relevant, Jen, and I don't mind taking my time.
Yeah.
Neither does anybody at Midas Gold Group. We're very privileged to have the ability to talk to people and to have something to do with protecting their assets and allowing them to financially survive over the next few years. And that's the way I would think about it. How could you financially survive? How could you not be financially ruined when all of this and the system is torn down?
Absolutely.
How could you still be viable so that you can participate in the next financial system? And I do think the next financial system, gold and silver will have a much bigger role. We'll see.
There could even be some more value there as well, right?
So yeah, I think gold will be $10,000 an ounce someday. I think gold will be, silver will be in the hundreds of dollars if it's ever allowed to just trade based on its actual supply and demand. We'll see. And as our paper money loses value, but isn't it better to be prepared?
Absolutely.
And at least have something? Maybe you won't need it, but isn't it better to at least have it?
And it's there in your control, at your fingertips, if you need it. 480-725-0525. That's the number directly to Ken Russo, his direct line for that personal touch. You're not going to want to miss the opportunity to talk to this guy. He's a great guy. Plus, you can quiz him about the New York Yankees. 480-725-0525. That's a number for Ken Russo. Direct number from Midas Gold Group, 855-322-4653 or MidasGoldGroup.com. A product spotlight as a Gold Standard radio show continues. Ken Russo and Jennifer Horn.
Dr. Gorka here. You're listening to The Gold Standard with your hosts, Ken Russo from veteran-owned Midas Gold Group and Jennifer Horn. Owning private money in the form of physical gold and silver is perhaps more important than ever to your long-term financial security. As U.S. banks fail, the Biden administration sends hundreds of billions abroad while depleting our strategic oil reserves. However, the biggest financial threat may be coming from within: central bank digital currency. The patents have been filed and the big banks have released plans for implementation. Midas Gold Group sees tyrannical implications, the end of cash, the end of financial privacy, big government able to see your every purchase. Could there be ties to social credit? Here, more commentary on the political and economic issues that affect your financial security right here on the Gold Standard. You can create your own Gold Standard with a call to Midas Gold Group, 855-322-GOLD. That's 855-322-4653, MidasGoldGroup.com.
Welcome back to the Gold Standard Radio Show. Ken Russo and Jennifer Horn, always happy to be together and always happy to hang out with all of you. We want to address your issues, your concerns, your questions, give you an overview about what is going on right now in the United States and globally. And
I hope we're going to see some people Sunday at the town hall in Los Angeles.
I am so excited. If you listen to this on our LA affiliate,
yes,
AM 870, The Answer, Ken will be out there. I'll be there as well. Town Hall 2023 at the Universal Hilton. So
Yes.
that'll be a lot of fun. I always love to have our events in person, and then you can get that face-to-face time where people can ask you real questions. And by the way, you do make yourself available so often, and today is one of those days. If you want to call Ken Russo directly, get the personal touch. There is no more personal touch than Ken's direct line. 480-725-0525. We're going to get some listener questions here in a second. If you have a question that you want to email, info@MidasGoldGroup.com. That's info@MidasGoldGroup.com. And you can always check out the website at MidasGoldGroup.com. But let's talk about a product. We always like to do a product spotlight. And today, I've always heard about the gold Krugerrand. I like to say it. Am I saying it right?
Yeah, I think so.
Like Freddy Krugerrand?
Yeah, well, actually, like Paul Krugman.
Like Paul Krugman?
Yeah, I think he was like a politician in South Africa.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not a historian or a professional interviewer.
But he plays one on the radio.
Or even a professional radio, co-host.
Well, I don't know about that. We can't say that anymore. We try.
And people are more than welcome to call up and criticize me as well if they'd like. If they have something they want to get off their chest.
That's right, 480-725-0525.
It's not a problem.
0525.
I have thick skin. But the 1-ounce gold Krugerrand, actually this one I'm holding right now,
it's beautiful.
is from 1977. Now, earlier in the show,
yes,
I mentioned that President Ford in 1974, which is coincidentally the same year that we signed up to be the petrodollar.
Yeah.
Which is also slipping away. Slipping away.
Yeah.
I don't know how it goes, but
people might call you to criticize your singing.
That's okay. More than welcome. No big deal. The 1-ounce Krugerrand was one of the only gold coins available at that time in 1974 that American citizens could own. Remember,
we weren't allowed to own or have gold, buy gold at that point, right?
Right. In 1933, President Roosevelt asked everybody to turn in their gold,
right,
because they needed it to print more money, and then they put the gold back out on the market at a 75% gain a year later. A wonderful move by our government. They got our best interests in mind.
Sure.
But anyway, the gold Krugerrand was one of the only coins available in the 70s that Americans were able to buy. A lot of the first-time gold buyers, the old-timers, as we like to say, they bought this coin. It's a 91% pure gold coin. It has a side profile of Paul Krugman on the front, and it has a antelope-looking animal on the back.
I like that. An antelope-looking animal.
Yeah.
Might be
an
antelope.
I
like it, too. It's very pretty.
When I look at it, it kind of feels like old money. Feels real.
Yeah.
And is that what we're talking about? Our fake printed currency.
Let's say it doesn't blow away in the wind.
Versus the fake markets and these fake stock prices that, the banks continue to manipulate. And then you have something real.
Yep.
Real money. And the reason why we say real money is because gold is actually a store of value. If you looked at the price of gold 20 years ago, it was $300. Now it's $1,900. If you looked at the price of gold in the early 70s, it was $30, and it went to $800 10 years later in the early 80s. If you look at the dollar, it's the total opposite. And the more they keep printing, the more our money and our savings and our investments are going to continue to dwindle. That's the reason.
Right.
That's the reason. Besides, there could be a crisis. Besides, our government is just being run into the ground. Besides, everybody's pushing buttons and these banks manipulate and control prices of things. I mean, they put oil at minus $40 3 years ago. How could the price of oil, a real barrel of oil be minus 40?
I don't know, but we should buy some at minus 40.
That's how ridiculous this financial system is. And I guess the point is if you have all of your money wrapped up in that kind of ridiculous system, or your retirement accounts, or your IRAs, everything you saved and worked hard for, I would have to ask you, why would you ever want to do that when there are options, and gold and silver being, in our opinion, the easiest option?
Safe and secure and stable and private. That's what gold and precious metals will bring to you. 480-725-0525. That is Ken Russo's direct line. So call him this week. You want to ask him some questions? You can critique his singing, maybe offer him a record deal. 480-725-0525. You can always call Midas as well for 855. I'm trying to get my numbers right here. 855-322-4653. MidasGoldGroup.com for the website, and you can see them face-to-face in Thousand Oaks, California, or in Phoenix, Arizona. Now, Ken, we have a listener email for you. Are you ready? Are you up for the challenge?
This is the one, huh?
This is the one.
Okay.
This is an email from Joseph at info@MidasGoldGroup.com. Joseph wants to know what you mean when you say a system that is drowning in debt.
Good question, Joseph, and very relevant. Well, back in 1980, I think the federal debt was $900 billion.
Okay.
So fast forward that 50 years or so later, now we're at $33 trillion.
Ooh.
And the unfunded liabilities are probably $100 to $200 trillion when we talk about Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, all of these things that we've promised to pay our citizens, right?
Yeah.
It has to be paid back. So it's a system that is drowning in debt. It's kind of like if you were a credit card junkie and you were all maxed out on your credit cards. Well, eventually you have to at least pay the minimum. How long is it going to take you to pay it all off? Who knows? I think they say if you have $10,000 in credit card debt and you pay the minimum, it takes like over 10 years or something to pay it off. Our government...
Because you're really paying interest at that point,
Well,
right?
and look at what's happening now to our government.
With the debt, they're just paying interest.
And it's almost $1 trillion a year in interest. So our country is dependent on selling bonds. And when they create those bonds out of thin air, then they create dollars out of thin air to pay for that stuff. And if we can't print bonds and take out more debt, our country and our financial system ceases to exist. So I have to keep doing it. And now it's going exponential.
Yeah.
So the point is that a financial system that's based on so much debt, just common sense, is doomed to fail. A currency that is based on printing and printing and printing is doomed to be almost worthless. It's happened many times in history. So for somebody to say the debt's not going to matter, in our opinion, that would be 100% wrong. It will matter. And you can't fix a debt problem by issuing more debt. So the question is, how could you protect yourself when the system comes down naturally or is intentionally torn down? How could you remain?
Which is sadly an option,
It
right?
could be. I'm not willing to risk everything on that,
But you have to think it through.
Of course. It affects everyone. So that's where we're coming from. In my opinion, every single American right now should be taking a substantial part of their paper assets and converting it to gold and silver, because at least no matter what happens, while the dust settles, while everything is torn down, you could at least remain somewhat financially intact.
Yeah, and this isn't the only, this is a way to hedge your bets. And that's why it's really important to go to Midas or to call Ken this week, 480-725-0525, and say, look, here's my situation. This is where my money is. Figure out what that right amount is to protect yourself so that you have some pulled out of a system that, as you mentioned, Ken, is very fragile. At best, it is fragile, and at worst, it is a looming catastrophe.
It's probably insolvent. It's probably, if we want to use real drastic words, it's probably a Ponzi scheme. But that's the way it goes. It's not going to stop. And that doesn't mean you have to be financially ruined because of the mistakes of our political and leaders and our central bankers. Because they're corrupt and greedy, that doesn't mean that everything you've worked for needs to disappear or be locked up.
And what better way than if you are a true patriot, if you're an American citizen here, you know that you want to hold something privately, something that you can take responsibility for, personal responsibility for, so you don't have to rely on anyone else. Gold and precious metals give you that opportunity to take the personal responsibility for your family and protect all that money you've worked hard for.
Yeah, and the privacy aspect's important. Financial freedom is important. We'll get into that next show, but there's a lot of stuff going on. I would hate to see people just see their savings and everything they've worked hard for just disappear or devalued, where the value's next to nothing. You can still do something about it, but those decisions have to be made now while we still can.
That's right. Don't wait for the storm. Do it now. Here's what you need to do. Ken's personal number this week, 480-725-0525. 480-725-0525. Call Ken Russo this week or check out MidasGoldGroup.com, MidasGoldGroup.com. Ken Russo, thank you so much. Thank you all for joining us. It's the Gold Standard Radio Show with Ken Russo and Jennifer Horn.